Yo everybody, and welcome to a new video. And today we're gonna take a short overview on the patch notes that will basically be live in February 2022. And on Stormbound Kitty, as usual, you can see or read it for yourself as well. So let's, without further ado, let's just go in. Hello Stormbounders, a new version of Stormbound is coming early February, bringing balance changes, 2 new ancient cards, compensation, and some exclusive offers. So this is the summary, COVID notice. So what's wrong, or what was wrong? Basically, last month there was a lot of issues, and well, it's nice that Shipyard is elaborating a little bit on what's happening and what resulted in the really bad lag, like the Circle of Doom, the connectivity lag, game freezes. So a lot of stuff has happened. And well, basically the service providers performed a framework update, and at the same time they released a draft mode. And well, perhaps you have noticed it's really big, and I think a lot of people have found their passion into draft mode. So well, you can just say if you're, for example, have like 2,000 concurrent players, and then eventually you have like 4,000 concurrent players at any given time. Well, if it just doubles the payload, then a lot more traffic goes up. Shipyard needs to upscale it. It's not like a really big company where everything can be maybe automatic and stuff, especially if your service providers is doing updates which go badly. Then just imagine it's gonna be a hell. And that's basically what happened. So what did Shipyard wanted us to do? They want to give us compensation and basically a double coin event. So that make basically every win you do has double the coins. And well, that's it basically. Matches will yield twice as many coins, and the coin cap will be increased from 800 to 1400 for the premium. But remember that the quests and stuff and the end of season league and those kind of stuff will all stay the same. It's just the coin wins you get. And every player logging into the game at least once during the first week of February will be granted an extra free entry for the draft mode. That's basically 600 coins. So that's nice as well. Just try to have it. And the Brawl event for the week be half the price. So that's really sweet as well. So depending on whichever Brawl you do and you want to do, then most likely you can easily get a couple of miles further ahead. Get some juicy rewards. Get goes for the rubies or for the fusion stones if you are into the ultimate Brawl. So well, basically this is the cheapened Brawl where you can see what costs are. I think most people already have seen this thousands of times, so well, enjoy looking at it yourself. So now the juicy stuff, and those are the balance changes. So this release, just like any other, will bring some balance changes, and this is the only nerf which we also get compensated, that you can see below. And green prototypes now also gives vitalize to the opponent unit. So green prototypes at lower levels, a lot of people do not really know if this is a good card or a bad card, but once you go into the higher leagues, this card becomes insane, and basically everybody is just using it because A, you want to have movement, and it is 1 mana, so you have like 1 movement forward. It can also yield 500% value, so basically your mana investment versus the strength you get out of it. And there's like a lot of 5-strength units around. It becomes less and less nowadays with all the new cards Shipyard is cranking out. But basically a couple of months ago, there was always a 5-strength on the board. And otherwise you just have like a 1 movement card. And the third option is also, it has 1 mana. And if you just have 1 mana, you can cycle really quickly. You're never floating so much mana because you have just this card into your deck. So, well, those things combined. And that said, it needed to be nerfed. Like, I'm a big opponent if the give X strength to an enemy unit is higher than its own base strength. I think this is really clear, and it makes a lot of sense. I really enjoyed when I suggested this in the beginning of Stormbound, and the designer picked it up and made it both the same. It was even more insane in the beginning, where it was the strength given to the opponent wouldn't raise. So now it both raises. Anyways, this is a very a simple nerf, but on the higher leagues, I think it's not that much, but obviously it tickles a little bit, so it becomes less favorable. And on the lower leagues, this might be a really big nerf. If you just have this card level 1, level 2, then giving a Vitalize is also percentile a bigger buff to your opponent. So this might see only in construct decks for an Ironclad, or when you really want to cycle or whatever, but you're not gonna play it for strength because it's gonna be really bad. So the next one, Beards of Crowglyph. So what's happening with the card? It gains 1 base strength. Ability stays obviously the same since that's linked together. And yeah, I'm not sure. Like, obviously in the higher leagues, this card is not that played that well. I do think it can be really juicy in some kind of decks, since there's a lot of value you are generating. I've had some fun events with it, and well, it could basically be used in Hero League top 100. So I don't think it's like weak at all. There might be weaker cards that more need a buff, but this make it more interesting to definitely play in the higher leagues. For the lower leagues, I am a bit scared that this might be a bit tricky. So then we are saying like level 1, level 2. At that stage, this card might be really overwhelming. So yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe it was just buffing it up at the later levels was sufficient. I don't think this card needed any upgrades at the lower levels. So what's next? The Temple of the Heart. Strength is now 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Basically 1 strength up from its base strength. Nothing has changed to its ability. Well, I do think there are like 2 kind of players in Stormbound. One is a player who is leveling up multiple decks, and at that point basically you have equal amount of base health or even higher than your opponent, and at that point Temple of the Heart isn't really interesting unless you play maybe like Broken Truce on Swarm. Otherwise, yeah, you're not gonna get the chipping from your opponent's base health. And on the other side, you have people, and most likely these are often rushers, aggro players, who just invest all their resources in an aggro deck. And for them, this is gonna be huge, since it's a nice way to keep this card safe. Becomes just a little bit easier, and I think it's fine. I would really love to have this card available for all kind of players, but hey, at least the aggro players got a small buff. So the next one is Age Duskbringers. Now its base strength is also up with 1. And yeah, what do we think? I think just like Beards of Crowglyph with the elders, it's really convenient if you if your elder just stays alive. And well, this has some nice value now. Just look at it for level 1. It's 5 strength, gives 4, might even trigger another time, but often just think that Age Duskbringers just hits once. At the lower levels, this card was really shitty, especially at the 7 mana. Just think of Veterans of War stuff. Like, there are so many big cookies on. You don't play that much like 2 mana, 3 mana cards. So you do not often have that many units on the board. So, well, you need units on the board to actually give another friendly unit its buff. And the average strength of units on the board is basically higher compared to the higher leagues. So for the lower leagues, this is a much needed buff. For the higher level, yeah, from 9 to 10, I think there's no limit there. If you have 9 strength, there aren't many 9 strength units to compete with, so most likely you will always get a hit in. I think this mostly in the higher leagues is maybe now it can actually eat like 2 units a little bit more easy, and then you have double its ability, and that might be really interesting, especially since there's like a more swarm token decks and there are a bit more, well, obviously Shadowfen Toad decks. So I think this will still be mediocre at best, but it will be a little bit more fun to fool around with. So now we go to the Broken Earth Drakes. Mana cost now is 6, down from 7, and the strength is now 2, down from 3. So first of all, getting this card back to 6 is how it used to be with the Broken Earth Drakes. It was really broken at that time. It was a really good clear. Obviously the power level on average has increased, so it might be not that bad at the moment. But still, getting big ass AoE is very painful, especially on the higher leagues when there's a lot of mid-strength tokens going around, and all the cannon fodder with the 2 and 3 mana cards. So yeah, that's really good. There's nothing that's changing to its ability, so that stays the same. And well, let's talk a little bit about why the strength is now down from 2 or down from 3 to 2 now. I don't think you care much about its base strength for the strength itself as value. You just want to enable this as an ability and trigger it. So it basically becomes easier to just trigger it. Otherwise you had every now and then where Broken Earth Drakes just survives with 1 strength and then walks forward slowly, and then it becomes really awkward because you cannot kill it yourself. Your opponent is basically, well, that's the funny thing, is your opponent don't want to destroy it either. But yeah, it's really awkward. But basically, if this thing survived, then you would already be dead because you were very relying on the AoE being triggered. So I think this makes it a lot more fun to consistently play Broken Earth Drakes. But it will definitely be not as fun for your opponent, because it becomes also harder for your opponent to play around it. And that's something I'm a bit sad about. Like, I do like, if you know your opponent has Broken Earth Drakes, you might just squeeze in a not different card when Broken Earth Drakes cannot trigger its ability on death because it survives. And now the odds are just so slim. Yeah, it becomes just a bit more difficult. But I'm a bit scared of Broken Earth Drakes. Obviously, dragons aren't meta, especially not in the higher leagues. So, yeah, we're gonna see a bunch of Broken Earth Drake decks starting next month. Then we got Moment's Peace. Ability grunts now 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So this ability is just 1 more strength from what it was previously. Let's scroll down a little bit. So yeah, it's very interesting that they buff this card. They're buffing freeze in general a lot. Like the whole Blizzard Bombs was a nice buff, or nice buff. It was a buff for the freeze archetype, and now Moment's Peace as well. So this is gonna be a bit tricky, and Frostlings, or the new Frostlings from 2 mana was also with Frozen, and also the new card here, as you can see, the Orgone Leeches also has freeze. So there's gonna be a lot of freeze, and I don't know, probably not most people are remembering the days when freeze, with the chaos, was always running. It was really painful, and the games became really slow, and it was so much stall. It's really painful. Obviously, just giving this card 1 more strength doesn't immediately make that happen again, but it might be snowballing into that direction. And Shipyard is really pushing the Winter Pact archetype for freeze to become apparent, especially with this is surrounding. It's a big ass AoE going on. So yeah, I'm a bit scared for that. But for this card in general, I think it's fine. Especially if you just use it on units. I'm not the biggest fan if this card is getting used on structures. And then stall, for example, with the True Shot post. Things can just escalate real quickly and becomes very boring. And getting this card more playability also means it might be a bit more boring, as like the bad situations where the cards can be used. It would be interesting if this becomes a little bit more interesting in the aggro kind of style, where you freeze units from your opponent so they cannot destroy your own unit. Stuff like that. Alright, so the next one is Kindred's Grace. Its ability grants now 7, 8, 8, 10, 12. It's +1 strength for everything again. Yeah, I don't think this card needed that much of a buff, but it's just 1 strength. And it's just, well, the problem with this card, it still always feels like this is going to be used on Reign of Frogs, especially in the higher leagues. On the lower leagues, you might use it a little bit more often as well on Swarm. But with the satires, but most often it's just Toad or Swarm. I think they are trying to upgrade Kindred's Grace so you can use it a little bit more on the Ancients. There's a lot of Ancient tokens going on. Nobody is playing it, at least not when they're facing me in the game. But I think they are trying to steer Kindred's Grace to be used with their Ancient cards that they're releasing. Make them a little bit more sturdy. And yeah, but at the end of the day, it will just increase the power of Shadowfen with more Toad tokens. So yes, that's... and having this card in then also will let people more play Broken Earth Drakes and stuff to destroy all those token stuff. So that's a nice 1 for 2. Alright, so the new cards, 4 new epic ancient cards will join the ranks of the respective factions over the next 2 months. These 2 cards will be introduced in February, then there will be 2 more in March. So we got the Orgone Leeches, the epic, the Frostling Ancient. Before moving, reduce mana by 3, then freeze an enemy in the tile in front, decrease mana reduction by 1 for each other friendly ancient unit on the board. And it has movement, so it immediately triggers. So this is a really powerful card to basically start very aggressive, but if it's all alone, then you will drain yourself. So you're just basically like the other dragon from Winter Pact that destroys friendly units. Now they got another one which basically destroys your mana pool. So I'm not gonna talk too much. I want to make a separate video about these cards. So for the next one, the Martyr Spongers, Undead Ancient. Before moving, deal 1 damage to 2 other friendly ancient units, then deal the same amount of damage to the enemy base. So it's just a chip card, which also relies on ancient synergy, just like the Orgone one. Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of these cards. Well, I like Orgone Leeches obviously a little bit more than Martyr Spongers. Like the Martyr Spongers needs more ancients in the pool. And we don't have that yet, so this card will, if it will see play, it will take a while before the new Ancients are released. People got them leveled and stuff. And, well, for both I can say it's really a long text. I am a bit afraid of Yu-Gi-Oh!-esque, like really long descriptions for cards that are really painful. And people don't understand. And these two are definitely... in that category. I like the simple and the basic stuff with a lot of depth. These cards are complex on their own, most likely with a lot of depth, but the first thing you encounter is the complexity as a player, and this will scare away a lot of people. But it is an epic, so an epic ability might be, you can say that an epic ability might be, well, ask for the player that uses it to think about it a little bit more in advance on a strategic level as well as on a tactical level, whereas a common or a rare can be a bit more straightforward. And maybe it's just gonna be a thing on the Ancients, that they are gonna be long and confusing. But they are on 3 lines. But for so far, the new cards, I will make a separate video about them later. So they're also available in the card builder, so check it out. They got their own sales, 10 euros. It's just what we have already seen with everything else. I think it's fine. I don't like that these is not new, but it's a neutral background. Well, basically this is a Winter Pact and a Swarm. Should make a little bit nicer there, but whatever. It's just whatever they want to do. So the new Brawls, similar to what we did back in December for minion launchers, we will introduce 2 new Brawl modifiers for the 2 new cards. We think it's a good way for you to be able to try and play and enjoy the newly added cards before you start collecting. Like last time, a 0 mana level 1 unless owned and leveled copy of the new card will be added to everyone's deck, thus causing all the decks to have 13 cards. So basically that's one more. Only difference with the last time is that you also have the card in your base deck. It will cost 0 mana as well. The Warrior Brawl starting on the February the 10th. Well, Ogre Leeches and then Martyr Spongers. So yeah, I'm not the biggest fan on what they're trying to pull here. Basically, if they are gonna do this in the Warrior Brawl, like max level 3 or the Ultimate Brawl, max level 5, they will force people to, like, just imagine having this card level 5 for 0 mana. Then yeah, that's really insane, right? But if you do not buy the card pack, do not have it in your collection, you will just have a level 1 copy of it, which might also even be bad since it's very weak, especially if all the other cards are level 5. So it feels, well, they're basically Warrior Brawls at level 3 max. So I'm not sure. It feels a bit like these Brawls are pay to win. And that's not a good direction they want to in. Obviously, I understand that they want to make money and they want people to play the cards. But yeah, it's a tricky shenanigan. Then we got the biggest update, obviously, Valentine's event. With Valentine's Day approaching quickly, we thought we'd do a small event with more Caucasian. We got 3 more 200 rubies avatars. 200 rubies for an avatar, it's just insane. Obviously, only Wills will start paying for it. And as usual with the 200 rubies they're adding, I have no clue where they're coming from. And now I'm just talking about the first 2, because the third one, that looks like a life you see nowadays in the draft and in the Brawl. So that's really cute. But where the first 2 come from, no clue. I don't think these cards will ever make it into the game either. Like, which unit, which race are these cards? Which kingdom are they coming from? I don't know. I think people just want to have the cards that are already in the game as an avatar. And they're just giving us this. No clue. Maybe it's a cross promotion from other games they have. They have the art laying around. Make it Stormbound-esque and then put it in the game for 200 rubies. And maybe someone crazy just spends money on it. Obviously that's fine, right? To have it, but I don't think this is the most you can get out of the player base with adding this and not all the other avatars people actually want. Plus it's 200 rubies. Anyways, there will be exclusive pack until February 20th. And those are these ones. I don't do the math, but most likely it will be all fine. And then to conclude it, we have the quality of life improvements. You will now be able to mark cards as favorite within your collection, as well as sort of favorite cards first. This should help players frequently making new decks by letting them rapidly add their must include cards. Yeah, this is really sweet. So you can mark them, as you can see here, and then sort by, so they just end up. This will help a lot, especially if you make, well, basically for all kind of players. If you have like a lot of neutrals you just want to include, or basically you want to exclude neutrals nobody is actually using that often. So just get those out, and if you make like 10 variants of an Ironclad deck, then well, you always have a core of cards with Destructor Bots, maybe Link Golems, Green Prototypes. So you can just always put them in, and then differ a little bit, and then just becomes way easier to drag and drop. So I'm really happy that they keep continuing with the filtered by and sort by. It slowly becomes a little bit of a chaotic UI bottom freak show, but for the moment it's not. But I'm a bit afraid that they might reach at that point, but maybe then they will do a bigger overhaul for it. Alright, but last but not least, the community menu will now provide a direct link to the release notes on the site. We hope this helps the new player to learn about the release cycle we have, as well as the latest changes to the game. So basically, this makes me not needed anymore. I can just retire from this point forward, since I don't have to tell you guys about the patch notes, because you can just click in-game to patch notes, read this whole page yourself, and then you don't have to watch this whole video. But hey, if you still want to watch the video, it's fine by me as well. Then you get some commentary. And when everything be released, the balance changes with the season reset. So that's the first day of the month. The two cards will introduce the 7th and the 21st of February. And the Valentine's offer between 14th and the 20th of February. And the UI improvements will land on the February 7th. It's interesting, but this is a new client that they are pumping out, and that's because they also want to do it with the 2 new cards and all those stuff into the game client. The balance changes can be done on the server side, so that's why they are not in sync. Anyways, that's gonna be it for this video. I hope you enjoyed, and feel free to let me know what you think. Cheers.